So Google Drive is awesome. It lets us save all kinds of stuff. It lets us access it from anywhere. It is just an amazing thing that's kind of come up in the last 10 years or less than that, really, that's started to use. One small problem with Google Drive is that it saves everything. If we just barely start a document at all, it saves it for us, which is great when we don't want to lose things, but it does like turn us all into hoarders online. And so we really need to do a fall cleanup of our Google Drive. And I'm going to give you some tips and tricks for managing Google Drive. So I've got my top 5 tips for managing Google Drive. So the number one thing about Google Drive that helps us, keep this insane thing from becoming just overwhelming is the search function. Okay, Google Drive has an awesome search function, and you can search by a whole number of different things. So keyword, recents, things that are shared with me, types. So let's go through and take a look at some of the different ways that we can use the share function in Google Drive. So here's my Google Drive. And it's just insane how much stuff there is in here. If I scroll down, these are just folders, and we'll talk about those in a little bit. And then as I go through, there's just miles and miles and miles of files that are in here. It's crazy. I'm like the worst hoarder ever, okay? So if I needed to find something in this, and I had to like search through all these files and go through like this, it would take forever. I would never be able to find anything. So luckily, Google does what it does best, is to create a search function up in here. So just literally like 10 minutes ago, my wife asked me to find a lease that I had created and modified for her. And so in order to find that, I could just type in the word lease and then hit enter. And anything that had the word lease in its title and even in its body came in here. And then I was able to go down and find that document that she was looking for. So that's really awesome. But sometimes that might not even be enough. So there are a lot of other things we can do with our search functions in here. So probably the one, again, that you guys start with is just right here in the search bar to type in a keyword for the title, or it's a word that's even in the body of the text. If it's a document or a slide or something, it's got the word in there somewhere. Another thing that we use a lot is recent, because many times when we're looking for a file, it's something that we've done, not that long ago, okay? So here's that lease thing that I just pulled up. I've got my week at a glance that I used with my homeroom just a little bit ago, and we just talked about anti-bullying. So all of the files that I've used most recently are coming up, okay? And then stuff them yesterday and last week, what did I use? Okay, so I can search back and find things that way. So those are probably 2 of the most used search functions in Google Drive as keyword and recent. Also, though, those tend to not do a good job of finding files that are shared with me. So I'm going to my shared with me, and there are certain people that tend to share a lot of files with me, Miss Nottingham being number 1. So I can go in and take a look at anything that Miss Nottingham has sent me and say, well, I know she sent me this file. Where is it? Okay, so there's the week at a glance that she's actually created. So if I went looking for week at a glance, I wouldn't find it because under the other search function, because it wasn't created by me. It was by Mrs. Nottingham. She's the owner of that file. Okay, so I can, if I'm looking for something that somebody else sent me or shared with me, I want to go to shared with me, and then I'll usually put in their name. And again, I can do the same thing as well. It was shared with me, and it said something about smart. Okay, so what is shared with me that's smart by Miss Nottingham? Oh yeah, there's a bunch of things that she's shared with me that had the word smart in it. Okay, so shared with me files. Okay, and then there's some more advanced ways that I can search in Google Drive. So if I go to this drop down over here, I can search by type of file. So I say, well, I'm looking for a slide presentation I did a while back. I could do a presentation. Or maybe it's a spreadsheet or a document or a PDF, any of these. So I can limit my file search by the type of file that I'm looking for. And then again, I can say, well, who owns that file? It could be owned by me, could be not owned by me, could be a specific person. Again, we'll say, to Ms. Nottingham, send me a presentation in there, and I can click on search and say, well, oh, nope, she didn't. So I don't have one of those, okay? So I can do it by, again, by type, by owner in there, and then any time. So I can say, well, I know it's something that I worked on in the last today, yesterday, the last 7 days. That tends to just work better with going to recent. But this custom is a really good feature in here. So I can say, well, you know, I know it was something that I created last fall. Now, notice that the dates are kind of weird. It starts with years, then month, then day. It's kind of backwards from what we usually do, right? So I know that back in 2019, in September, somewhere, you know, September 1st, we'll say, to, again, 2019, September 30th, okay? I know that sometime in the month of September, I created this file that I'm looking for, and I can't find it any other way. It's somewhere between these two dates, and I click search, and anything I created during that time period is all going to come up. So you can see what I've created. Everything in here that it shows up was all created in September of 2019, which obviously is a lot of stuff, which is why we need to be able to have these files in here so we can find them, okay? So using any of these are a great way to search for files that are in there by keyword, recent, shared with me, and then the type of file. Now, one quick note, if it's a photo or video, now Google Docs, they used to just throw it all into Google Drive together. Now it's being stored in Google Photos. So if I'm looking for a photo or maybe a video that was done fairly recently in the last few months, I want to go and check in Google Photos. So we'll just take a quick look in there for a second. So here's my Google Photos. And what's really, really cool about Google Photos is if it's obviously, I don't title those very much, but Google Photos does a great job of arranging things for me. So I can go to Places and say, well, I'm looking for a photo that I took when I was in Washington, D.C. All right, so all these were photos that were done when I was in Washington, D.C. So I could do by places, I can do by things. This is kind of cool. I didn't even know I had like a ton of photos of cathedrals. So like here's all the photos that I had of cathedrals. So I can do different ways that way. And so, you know, and I can create my own photo. So I'm not going to get into Google Photos too much, but just know if I'm looking for a photo or video, that's where I want to go to search for that. All right, so tip number 1, using search. Tip number 2 is naming files. It is so helpful if I can search for something and I've got a file name that is easy to find. Again, back in Google search, so let's get out here. If I go in, I can look in the file name that is an inner term that matches part of the file name. So that really helps me to narrow it down a bunch, but that's only going to work if I have named the file properly. So when I name files, some things that I want to do is if there's a title to the file, I can just click the file name and it will insert easily. So for instance, if I go in and I start a doc, and actually you guys can go ahead and do this right now along with me. Go ahead and start a doc. And I'm going to just put in here, Mr. T. Brooks is the best computer teacher ever. All right, so I want you all to create a document that says Mr. T. Brooks is the best computer teacher ever, because we know that's true. Now I can go up here to Untitled Document, and I click in. Oops, it stopped because I had a period. Let me get rid of the periods. It will stop whenever the period is, okay. Yeah. There we go. All right, sorry for that little glitch. Okay, so Mr. T. Brooks is the best computer teacher ever. It put in there, okay? So, great. That is now my file name. So if I can make my file name the same as the title of my document or the first line of my document, that makes it a lot easier to find. So when I'm looking for a document, like where is it? I can't find that thing. Hey, just type in part of that first line, and hopefully if you've named it that, it's easy to find, okay? So that is one hint I use on using it, and I don't have to retype twice, okay? Also add other identifying words or abbreviations like the class name, okay? So let's say this was for ELA. So I could put in ELA at the end of it for my English language arts or social studies or something like that. No, not actually in there, sorry. I should be putting that up here in the title. Okay. So my teacher has asked me to write a report on the best computer teacher that I ever had, and that would be Mr. Brooks, or maybe Miss Hudak. Sorry, Miss Hudak, I don't mean to take her stuff away. Okay, so we're just going to hold on to that. Click that out for right now. Okay. So again, using identical, if I have, let's say I have a report every year I have to do on the best teacher ever, I can put that same file name, call it best teacher ever, and then add a date, 2019, 2018, 2017, and just continue to add on, and that will kind of group those things together for me. And then doing it with a project name. So all these are just some hints on how I name my files, so it makes it easier for me to do that search thing with them. Okay, so naming your files well is an important thing. Tip number 3, stop hoarding stuff. Okay, that thing that you created 5 years ago, you're never going to need it. So stop hoarding. We're going to search and destroy. And one of the key factors to search and destroy old junk in my Google Drive is if I didn't put a name on it, it's probably not important, right? I mean, if I've got a document that is unnamed or untitled, I can go in and click on and look for anything that is untitled. And here is everything that's been created recently that is untitled. And I can go through and there's untitled, 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 thousands of untitled documents that are in here, okay? So let's say I want to destroy them, but it makes me nervous, right? Well, what if I didn't title something, but it was really important, but I just forgot to do it, and it's something that I've used kind of recently. So I can add to not only untitled, but I can say, when did I did it, okay? And we're going to go back and use those custom dates. And so I'm going to say anything from 2010 1-1, so January 1st, 2010, until, let's say, 2020, we'll be safe and say July 2020, we'll just make it July 4th, okay? So anything between 2010, January 1st, and 2020, July 4th, I want to look for any files that are untitled, and that's what it says. Anything before 2027-4, July 4th, 2020, and 2010-1-1, anything that's untitled, I want to search for all those files. So I click search, and Google does its magic and says, okay, look at all of these files that are in here, okay? Now, I can go through and they just keep popping up and popping up and popping up, right? So all of this stuff, I'm going to say I'm going to get rid of it. Now, oops, I see a video file. I'm like, oh, I don't know what the video file is all about. Maybe I'm going to just do documents, anything that's a document that's in there. So these are all untitled documents, which, and especially if they have a file size of nothing, that means that I didn't really even do anything with them, okay? So now I'm going to click on this first one, and here's a little hint. When I scroll down a ways and then I hold down my Shift key, it will highlight all these files that say, all right, all that stuff is junk. I'm going to hit delete, backspace, and boom, all gone, okay? And so that's a quick way to find anything that I really truly don't need, because if it's a document and it's more than a month or two old and you haven't titled it, it's junk, right? So get rid of it. All you hoarders out there, delete those old files, delete the repetitive files, especially pictures. So go to that photo, and if we've taken 15 pictures of the same thing over and over again, get rid of a bunch of them, okay? So tip 3, stop hoarding. Tip number 4 is to create folders. So now let's say I've gotten it down to some things that I really do want to save, but it still can be overwhelming in Google Drive, right? I mean, I still have thousands and thousands of files in my Drive, even if after I've gotten rid of the untitled ones and everything else, I've got ones that are titles, et cetera, et cetera. So I want to be able to organize those, and that is what I do with folders. And most of you have kind of done this in the past, so let's just do it again real quick. We're going to say new folder, and I'm going to put a name on that folder, and today I'm going to put 2020 computer class. And spell it properly. Okay, so I want y'all to create a folder called 2020 computer class. Create. Okay, so this is part of a homework assignment, by the way, so please go ahead and do that, and you can see that now I've got that folder right in here. Okay, so what's cool about folders is it helps to organize information so I can find it more easily, and What also is great about folders is it lets me get rid of old information. So back here, I have a folder called 2016-7 lesson plans, okay? Now, that's like 3 years ago, 4 years ago. I'm never going to use those again. So I'm going to go ahead and right-click, two-finger click on these, and I'm going to remove them all. And it's gotten rid of, you can't see it down here underneath, so I've gotten rid of all the stuff in that folder. So all those things I put in there all at one time, all gone, okay? It's a great way to be able to eliminate old stuff that I don't need anymore, okay? So as I go through, I can look through all these things that I don't need anymore and just, again, delete it all at one time. This park thing, right? I don't need that anymore. Remove it. Everything that was in that folder is all gone. Now, it is gone into my trash. So if I click on my trash, it'll come up here. So these are the ones that I've just recently gotten rid of, okay? So I can search in those, last modified by me, go last modified. So these are some of the folders that I've gotten rid of, all right? And it's going to remain there for 30 days. However, Google has started to say that, you know what, people, you're not emptying your trash. So now it's going to start deleting things that are more than 30 days old. So I've got 30 days, though, to come back and take a look and like, oh, yeah, I decided I really need that, okay? All right, go back to my drive. One last thing I want you to do. So now we have created this folder called 2020 Computer Class, okay? And I am going to want you to put that document that we created just a little bit ago. So I'm going to go to my recent Mr. Brooks is the best computer teacher ever document, okay? And a couple ways I can do this. I can click down here and all my files will pull open and I can just grab this and throw it into that, okay? Or I also can right click and I can move it. So click move to computers and in my drive here, sorry, and find that 2020 computer class folder that way and say move there, okay? So one way or the other, get that document moved into computer class. So there it is, okay? Now let's say I'm working with some friends and we've got a whole lot of documents. And this happens a lot here at school with Miss Nottingham. She sends us all kinds of stuff and like trying to find individual documents got really hard. So she created a folder that then she shared with all the teachers. So what I would like you to do is I want you to share this folder with me, okay? Not just this one document, because we've done that, but I want you to actually share the folder with me. So click on that folder, click share, and you're gonna put in tbrooks at stu.whsd1.org, and you're going to share that folder with me, okay? I'll send it to Fake Kid, just so you get an idea, right? Here's my Fake Kid. So I want to send it to Fake Kid, and I can say a message and say, you know, here's the project files. And it keeps them all together in one place. I can tell Fake Kid to be an editor, meaning he can go and do it, or just a viewer if I only want him to see it. But I'm going to leave him as the editor, and I'm going to send that. And so now Fake Kid has access to the files in my 2020 computer class. So that is your homework for this week, is clean your stuff out. Create at least one folder called 2020 Computer Class and put a document in there that's called Mr. T. Brooks is the best computer teacher ever. Doesn't have to see ALA, you can. And then share that with me, and that's how I'm grading you this week. Okay? I would encourage you to create other folders and sort things out. Could be folders by class, could be by projects you're doing. As you can see, I have tons and tons of folders that I do. And when I get some time in my life, I'm going to go through and delete a bunch of those junk folders that I don't need anymore. All right, good luck cleaning up for fall on Google Drive. Next week, we're going to learn how to do some of the similar stuff on our Gmail, because that is equally ugly and messy for me, as I have hundreds and hundreds and thousands of emails that I need to get rid of and clean up and learn how to create like a folder called a label. So we'll do that for next time.